Welcome to SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We are doing our opening coverage for March Madness right now with Troy West from allplayswin.com, one of my favorite cappers that we've had on the shows this year. We just got finished discussing which mid-major teams might have some value in the postseason. Now we're going to take a look at what teams, probably from the major conference, although maybe from the mid-major conferences as well, that might be overvalued in postseason play. Troy, thanks for being here with us once again.
You bet, Pete. This is a great time of year. March Madness is a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite times of the year is to fill out these brackets.
Absolutely. All right. And for those of you who might not be familiar with our videos or who Troy West is, Troy was a regular contributor in our football previews this past football season and had an absolutely unbelievably phenomenal record, even for him. I mean, I think even he would admit that he's not as good of a capper as his actual record was with us in the videos. It was unbelievable. He was picking game after game, college football, NFL, and then the bowl season, and then the NFL playoffs. So thanks so much for being with us, Troy. And before we get into this, plug your site for a second.
Well, I won't admit to that we're not that good.
No?
I think we're the best out there, and I think one thing that makes us the best out there is the customer service you're going to get with our company. Our phone literally is available 24/7. We love talking games with people. You're either going to get to speak to myself, BJ Brown, Adam Rototo, or one of our other representatives. We always have somebody to talk to. We love breaking down games for people. It's been a phenomenal season. We've been in the strong 60% all year long.
Really?
We take stuff really seriously. I encourage people to give us a call and see what we're about.
All right, because I was going to say, I mean, you were like near 70% during football season against the spread. I mean, no one's a 70, even Billy Walters isn't a 70% capper in football.
You know, I'm not going to say we're at 70 year-round, but we're in the strong 60s.
Really?
And if you do things right like we do, I think people will realize they can make a profit with our company. A lot of people are coming on board. We love it. This is what we do. It's a full-time job for us. Come on board, give us a call. We're willing to give people 3 days, 4 day, 5 day trial, whatever it is to earn your business. We'll do it over at allplayswin.com.
All right, now let's look at some major conference teams that might be good fades in the postseason. I've got a bunch of teams down here that I've got on my paper with some pretty ugly, mediocre ATS records on the year. What are the first team or two that comes to mind when I bring up this subject?
You know, it's funny, Duke. Duke's one of those teams to me. I've not been impressed with Duke all year. They've been on a roller coaster all season. They are getting Nelson back, huge part of their offense. Kelly. They got Kelly coming back. He looked a lot better against Miami. Again, they didn't cover that game. They've been overvalued all year. They're -7 at home against Miami. Miami goes in there, should have won the game. They're the team to me that comes up the most as a fade material. I think Duke could be out as early as the second round. They'd be a team I'd stay away from.
The one thing, though, that does concern me, one thing I do like to look for in March Madness is teams, major conference teams like Duke or whatever, who are getting players back, who had like injuries concerns during the year and then are starting to get healthy at the end of the year. And last year, we saw that with Louisville, and I picked Louisville to go all the way to the Final Four. That's why I did so well last year with my brackets, because I identified Louisville as a team that was having injury concerns during much of the regular season, but then was getting healthy towards the end of the year. So maybe that's the case with Duke here, getting Kelly back. I mean, what do you think? How important do you think that will be?
I think you definitely need to see how they finish this year out and how they play in the ACC tournament. I am a big proponent of betting good coaches, and obviously they've got one of the best coaches in the country, if not the best. I think you can make an argument for a guy like Tom Izzo or a couple of those other coaches out there, but Coach K is obviously in the top three. So that brings up a tough point. With Kelly coming back, they did look better against Miami, but again, this point spread, 7 points against the Miami team that blew them out, was crazy. Our company was all over them. We liked Miami in that game.
Really?
I would see how Duke finishes out before I play them in the tournament.
All right, what do you make of Indiana? At one time, they were a top-ranked team in the country. They're 15-12 against the spread.
I think Indiana's got an opportunity to make a serious run. They're going to be penciled in my Final Four. Against the spread, we'll see how much value they get with the lines. But they look good. Indiana's a good basketball team. To me, the Big Ten this year is probably the best conference, in my opinion. I think Indiana's done a phenomenal job. Crean's obviously a phenomenal coach. They're extremely athletic. They're a team I expect to make a good push. I like Indiana. See where the lines are at. If they're a 20, 25-point favorite in that first round, I'd probably stay away. But I do think they're Indiana. If you're one of those guys that's filling out your bracket, they'd be one that I'd put in the Final Four, absolutely.
All right, and what do you make of Kansas? Kansas, another team that was ranked number one at one point. A similar record to Indiana, 16-13 against the spread, 4-5 against the spread on the road. But Kansas has covered 7 straight now.
they have covered 7 straight. I think the last game they didn't cover was one I had. I'll fully admit. I thought Kansas had a lot of value at -3 against Oklahoma, and Oklahoma beat them. And I watched that basketball game on TV very, very closely, and I was not impressed with Oklahoma at all. And so for them to lose, or excuse me, for them to beat Kansas, I'm throwing Kansas out of my bracket, to be honest with you. I'm not putting them in my Sweet 16 unless they have a cupcake road. I'm not impressed with Kansas. You know, they've gotten a few good wins in the Big 12. I know they've beaten the teams they're supposed to beat, but I'll have them out early in my bracket, and there won't be a team that I'll be betting early on either.
All right, and then I want to ask you about Syracuse, another team that people at SBR have been kind of saying that they think Syracuse is similarly overrated to some of these teams we've been mentioning.
Syracuse is a really tough one to me because they're a roller coaster. You know, an absolute roller coaster. You look at what they did. They lose at home last week to Louisville. That was kind of a big test for them, so to speak. But then again, they have a coach that's been to the tournament year after year after year. Syracuse is one of those teams that seems to come to play come tournament time. So I would really pay close attention at the matchup of that type of game. I'll have to see where they're put in the bracket. You know, if they do get one of those mid-major teams like a St. Mary's, like we talked about earlier, or somebody that comes out of like a Creighton, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see an upset. Syracuse, to me, is definitely not the powerhouse Syracuse that we're used to.
Right.
But again, Boeheim, phenomenal coach. You know, you got to look at see where the matchups are in that one. Syracuse is a team I'm definitely not high on, but I'm definitely not. It's going to be a matchup thing for me with them.
Okay, all right. And then let me get your opinion on an opinion that I have, which is that I'm kind of down on the Pac-12 in general, and two teams that are probably going to get at-large bids is Oregon and Arizona. I'm thinking those are two teams that will be good fades in the first round, and then again in the second round if they happen to get wins in their first-round games.
You know, I couldn't agree more, Pete. And this is a conference that I follow extremely close. I mean, you'll see on our card every Thursday, every Saturday, you're going to get some Pac-12 basketball on our card. Follow it extremely close. Oregon needs to get healthy. You look at the way Oregon started this year off; they were hot. They were real hot. They played phenomenal basketball. They got Arizona home, beat them off the floor pretty good. They played some of their non-conference games. They played really tough. But I agree with you. The Pac-12, you're probably going to get UCLA in the tournament. You're going to get Oregon. You're going to get Arizona. You might get Cal, Colorado. None of these teams are very impressive to me. They've just kind of beat up on each other all conference long. I just don't think there's any value in the Pac-12. I couldn't agree with you more, Pete. If Arizona or Oregon gets favorable matchups in those first two rounds, then I could possibly see a Sweet 16 push. But I sure as heck would not have any Pac-12 teams in your Elite Eight.
Right.
Not one.
That's how I'm thinking as well. And then finally, I want to get your take on two very interesting teams. They're two teams that could easily be Final Four teams this year, and they were significantly undervalued to start the season, but then the market kind of caught up to them. They've been kind of 50-50 over their last 10 games or so, and that's Miami, Florida from the ACC and Florida from the SEC. What's your take on either of those teams or both?
I think both those teams are phenomenal. I've seen Florida slip up maybe once or twice all year, but they've been extremely consistent. And they're a team that can score points in a hurry. Miami, to me, is going to be a Final Four team. They're another team I'm going to pencil in. They may be an obvious selection, but they just have so much firepower on that team. And they've been tested all year, and they've shown up for the test. And then again, Florida's done the same thing. Florida, I'm a little bit leery of because the SEC is a little bit down this year. But Billy Donovan teams, I mean, come on, what else you got to say about Billy Donovan teams that can score points?
This has been an awesome call, a great kickoff to March Madness, and we'll talk to you again when some of the matchups and lines come out.
I'm looking forward to it.